Hi, I'm Lauren Llewellyn, one of the Careers Advisors at York St John University. Welcome to this video on graduate schemes. So around 10% of graduates embark upon a graduate scheme after university, but this is just one choice among various options that you have after you've completed your studies. The focus of this video is to provide some starter information around graduate schemes and to signpost where you can find out more to continue your research if this option is of interest to you. I thought it would be helpful to start with some terminology translation. So graduate scheme or graduate programme, or a term I've heard recently, graduate traineeship, is a structured training programme run by an employer. And these programmes can be anything from 1 to 4 years. And the aim of them is usually to develop future leaders of their organisation. Some of these programmes also result in a professional qualification. And as suggested in the title, the main requirement, or one of the requirements, is that you have a degree. So a graduate job then would require a degree or graduate level skills such as organising, managing, analysing, but doesn't necessarily come with the real structured training programme. Usually you will find some level of training involved within undertaking a graduate role, but not as structured as within a graduate scheme. So sometimes graduate jobs are really easy to identify because the word graduate is in the title. Graduate marketing assistant, graduate HR assistant, that kind of thing. But sometimes the job title doesn't include the word graduate, but actually when you look at the person specification, an essential criteria is that you have a degree. And sometimes the degree, the employer will specify a particular degree subject area, but usually not. Usually it's just a degree. So a direct entry job, so this would be other roles that don't have a degree as part of the essential criteria, as part of the job specification. Now, something that students often speak to us as careers advisors about is that they want to use their degree after graduating, which is absolutely completely understandable. And perhaps the perception there is that going into a job that doesn't request a degree as part of the criteria to apply is not necessarily best use of the degree. However, what we've got to bear in mind is that if you really understand the skills and strengths you've developed from your degree, you can use this as evidence for skills that are sought after in jobs and the ones that don't necessarily specify a degree. Within any application to any job, what you want to do is show how relevant you are for that particular job. And actually, other roles that don't require a degree to apply can be a great way to build experience and actually get to where you want to be, depending on what your version of success is and what your goal is. So I would definitely argue that actually applying for and taking on a job that doesn't require a degree as part of the application process can still be using your degree after university. So the key message here is that you have options, of which a graduate scheme is one. So part of what this video will hopefully help with is figuring out whether or not it's the option for you, and to kind of prompt you to think about what you want and what your version of success is and what will help you reach it. So what can you do a graduate scheme in, and where can you do them? So the best way to answer this question is to direct you to this brilliant page on the prospects.ac.uk website. So here you will find some information about what a graduate scheme is, some top graduate schemes, and here, which companies run graduate schemes. So you can see here from the list of sectors: charity, finance, healthcare management, human resources, and so on, information technology, law, marketing and media, public services, retail, transport. You can pretty much do a graduate scheme anywhere. So this information here will help you to do some research, undertake some research in any sectors that seem of interest to you. You can then look into the graduate schemes available in that particular sector or area of interest. So yeah, this isn't, I should point out, this definitely isn't an extensive list, because there'll be many graduate schemes that aren't mentioned in this particular list, but through following the signpost to where you can get further information, I'm sure you'll come across more, and from doing your own independent research on particular companies' websites. But this is definitely a resource that can help you understand what schemes are out there and in which organisations, and whether or not it's something that you'd be interested in. So why might you want to undertake a graduate scheme? What are the benefits? So they offer clear and structured training. You will get hands-on experience. You're usually handed responsibility from the outset, but whilst also receiving support in building key skills. It provides the opportunities to develop a broad understanding of your chosen profession, as many graduate schemes allow you to experience different functions within the organisations, or different functions within the sector of the organisation that your graduate scheme is within. The salary is quite good. The median graduate salary is £30,000, and actually more than 1/6 of graduate jobs at the country's leading employers now have initial salaries of over £40,000. So if money is something that is really important to you in terms of what you're looking for out of your career, then that's something to bear in mind. You can apply across disciplines. So many employers don't specify degree subject, the what's known as degree agnostic. So some graduate schemes will say, we're specifically looking for a science degree, science graduates. Others will say any degree subject. And actually what they're looking for is more around your attitude and your skills and your approach to work. Which is really interesting because it just opens up your exploration. So perhaps you can consider sectors or organisations within sectors that you might not have thought about. So for example, I know that last year the graduate of the year at Fujitsu, which is a large tech organisation, was a fashion graduate. So just, some food for thought there. Things to consider when thinking about graduate schemes as an option. They are fiercely competitive. So some statistics suggest that you've got a 1 in 10 chance of getting a position. Some of the top schemes have 15 to 20,000 applicants per year. So that's definitely not to say don't apply, don't let the competitive nature put you off, but it is something to have in mind. If you can show your understanding of what they're looking for and evidence your relevant skills and attributes, and show you understand them as an organisation, and articulate your motivation for wanting to be part of the organisation, so why this graduate scheme in this organisation, then you stand as good a chance as anyone. Actually, what we're kind of alluding to here is that a growth mindset is a helpful mindset to go into graduate scheme applications with. So even if you're not successful in one particular graduate scheme application, it's thinking about, well, what have I learned from this experience? What skills have I developed from this experience, and how can I take those forward into increasing my chances in my next application? And I'll put a link to a really helpful growth mindset resource in the description underneath the video. Something that might be really helpful just for anybody applying to any opportunities, not just graduate schemes. So you might be required to work across several functions and locations. So we mentioned that as a kind of benefit of graduate schemes too. So depending on the organisation, you might be working across different sites and different functions. And for some, that's a really exciting prospect, and that's a huge benefit. But for others, that can be quite frustrating. If you've got a real set idea of exactly what you want to be doing, and you perhaps don't welcome that kind of flexibility, or perhaps you're not as able to be flexible in terms of location. So doing the research on what actually is required is really a good advice. So many graduate schemes require a minimum of a 2-1, although some accept 2-2s. And I think just something to consider is that it's not right for everybody, and that's absolutely okay. There's many other options. The key is to make an informed decision and set goals around that. So doing the research and gathering the information, again, is very helpful. Graduate scheme recruitment practices are extensive. They often include many different aspects with multiple rounds over what can be weeks, months, because of the competitive nature of the graduate scheme. So the employer is obviously wanting to find the right people for the organisation, and when you've got a large volume of applications, you need sort of various measures in place. So those measures can be a combination of an online application form, CV and cover letter, some sort of pre-screening conversation, whether that's formal or informal, over the phone, Teams. A pre-recorded video interview is often a initial stage of the recruitment process, where you are asked to answer pre-recorded questions on video and then submit that video. And you can see how, in terms of using everybody's time, that's really helpful in the process, because it just takes out the whole diary management aspect of asking people to come on in there. You can do it in your own time, and then the employees can look at it in their own time. In-person interviews, online live interviews, assessment centres, either online or in person, although many are online still. Psychometric tests. So it's likely that the process will be quite online based in the initial rounds, with in-person aspects at the later stages. And although the pandemic accelerated the move to online recruitment and selection processes, many organisations actually were already had these in place before. So something that's really important to know is that graduate scheme recruitment typically opens from the from the end of your second year, so like June onwards, and closing dates are usually November, December of that year, with the selection process sort of taking place over the early part of the year in the spring, and then start dates would be the summer you graduate. So there's although there are organisations that have like a rolling recruitment strategy and advertise for vacancies as and when they arise, rather than this kind of seasonal approach. It is just to be aware of. It's helpful to do your research sort of in second year, and be aware of those timescales. If this is really bad news because you're actually already towards the very end of your second year, or in third year, or have already graduated, don't worry. You can apply as an undergrad, but you can also apply as a recent graduate, so up to 3 years after graduating. I thought it might be helpful to have a look at a graduate scheme as an example, just to give a little bit of insight into the streams, which is essentially the areas of work that are available, and the recruitment and selection process. So this is just one example of one graduate scheme. Obviously, they do vary. So this is the civil service fast stream, and the programmes within the civil service fast stream range between 2 and 4 years, depending on which stream you undertake. So there's 15 different streams, so 15 different areas to undertake a graduate scheme within. So commercial, finance, digital data technology and cyber, HR, Houses of Parliament, science and engineering, property, project delivery, government social research, government statistical service, government operational research service, government economic service, generalist, diplomatic and development economics. So a vast array of really different sort of sectors within this public service. So some streams require a 2-2, and some require a 2-1. 6 of the 15 streams have a specific degree subject requirement, but all the rest are any degree subject. And some of these streams also incorporate professional qualifications, but not all of them. So the recruitment process follows these particular stages, and this is all really explicit on the website, and actually also on the website is information on what criteria is being assessed at each different stage of the process, which is obviously really helpful for you in terms of knowing if it's something that you want to apply to, one, and also then, you know, as support for during the application process if you do decide it's something that you want to go ahead and do. So this particular process involves online tests, so work style questionnaires and multimedia situational judgment questionnaires, whereby you have 5 days to complete those. Work-based scenarios, so an online case study and learning assessments, again with an allocation of 5 days to complete. A video interview, so these are pre-recorded questions, and you obviously record your answers to those questions, and again you have 5 days to complete that. And then an assessment centre, which is a half-day online assessment centre, reflecting some of the key elements of a fast stream role, and consists of leadership scenarios and a team scenario and written scenarios. And then finally, for some but not all of the streams, is then a final selection board in person. So you can see there that the majority of that recruitment process is online. So we've got like various different additional resources that can support you with a graduate scheme recruitment process, and with any recruitment process actually, whether it's a graduate job or an entry-level role that you're applying to, or a different opportunity. So we have, I'll link to these resources in the description underneath the video, but we've got a video on YouTube about recruitment success. You can practice some of these elements of the recruitment process using different platforms we have, like Shortlist Me to practice video interviewing, Graduates First allows psychometric test and kind of assessment centre practice. And also we have employers coming onto campus all the time to look out for events on LaunchPad Online, and these employers are there sometimes in the capacity to give a rundown of their specific recruitment practices and provide advice and support. So yeah, and of course we as careers advisors, if you book a one-to-one appointment, we can help you and support you through the process. But I think it's worth remembering that you know, the employer actually wants you to get to the job, and many of the organisations offering graduate schemes offer support from the recruitment team. So use that support that's available. You know, they want the best people and they want you to have a really good experience. And just sort of worth mentioning too, according to some recent Institute of Student Employer research, which the Institute of Student Employers is a large organisation incorporating lots of different organisations across various sectors who employ a lot of graduates. And what this research suggested was that the top 5 skills that graduate employers look for in 2021 are problem solving, resilience, learning agility, self-awareness and commercial awareness. And actually the majority of those ISE organisations use assessment centres as their way of assessing for these. So it's worth really doing some research around those particular skills, and again we can help support you with that. As mentioned, that example that we just looked at is the civil service fast stream is one of many graduate schemes. So here's some ideas on where you can look to find graduate schemes and programmes, and to find further information. So LaunchPad Online is the sort of online platform for all things careers, placement, student opportunities, and that's where we'll advertise careers fairs and employer insight events, and the more of those you attend, the more informed you will be. And what I like to mention when we talk about sort of employer events is try not to have preconceptions about the types of role that employer might have. Go along to the event and find out, because actually you can be surprised. So we quite often sort of, if you think about like a retailer, for example, like Marks and Spencer's, you might immediately think that, you know, the jobs there are, you know, shop floor based management perhaps, which is of course true, but you will also find other roles like HR roles, IT, you know, marketing roles. You know, large organisations have a huge variety of different roles in order to operate. The prospects page, I've already signposted to this, to that particular graduate schemes information page, which is just, you know, a really good starting point, and you'll end up clicking away through different, clicking off into different directions to find more information, you know, tailored to you. There's also the job profiles and sector areas on prospects, and within each job profile, there's links to sort of industry specific vacancy sites, where you might well find you know, information on graduate schemes and opportunities. Any, you know, the websites for organisations that you are particularly interested in can provide information about, you know, graduate schemes or programs that they might have. So, you know, follow their social media, and you then have, you know, direct feed to you of anything that they post about around these sorts of opportunities. You know, although we quite often associate graduate schemes with big companies, there's small companies and you know, SMEs do also have their own versions of graduate schemes. You know, it might be something that they've just kind of started doing so it might be a much smaller scale, but worth looking out for, definitely. So there's some other websites there, Milk Around, Target Jobs, Grad Cracker. They're platforms that are very graduate focused and advertise graduate schemes. There's some other more general sites there. So Guardian Jobs, they have you know, graduate jobs section, which will advertise graduate schemes. Some sort of sector specific but general sites there, NHS, and TESS is is a site for all things education. And I've just put the logo for the City of York Council website there, just to remind you, if you are interested in public sector roles or what could be available there, looking at the council within the geographical location that you're interested in, looking at their website is often helpful too. And LinkedIn is just always a very good general one for finding opportunities, but also for building that commercial awareness and understanding different organisations, and perhaps also finding people to reach out to just get that additional information about what it's like to work for that organisation, anything you should know as being part of the recruitment process. Yeah, so something else that you could do when sort of looking for graduate scheme opportunities is linking to what I was mentioning about, you know, considering both big and smaller organisations. It's paying attention to the local labour market, of the geographical area that you're looking to work in, and you know, who are the big organisations in that area, who are the top employers, who are the upcoming SMEs, and just a bit of Google searching can really lead you to some really great information. You know, an example of paying attention to the local labour market is that the Channel 4 headquarters has recently moved to Leeds, so there'll be a lot of recruitment, I'm sure some of which will be graduate recruitment going on there. If you have any questions at all about this video, or any careers related questions generally, please email careers@yorksj.ac.uk. You can also use that email address for feedback on documents, so things like CVs, cover letters, application forms. You can send them, and if you give us a 1 week turnaround time, we can provide feedback for you on those things. You can also book a one-to-one careers appointment with one of the careers advisors. And you can use that appointment for support with a specific application, or if you're really not sure which option you want to take after graduation and you'd like some support with your decision making, we can definitely help with that as well. Thank you so much for listening.